reframe. When we're looking at the glass half empty, we can choose to look at it. Those are our choices. All right, let me move on to Ernest Holmes, our founder, wonderful man. He has a lot of things to say. He uses the word illusion. He says the illusion isn't the way we look at things. We have looked at poverty, degradation, and misery until they have assumed gigantic proportions. Now, keep in mind he wrote this in 1926. Now, we must look at harmony, happiness, plenty, prosperity, peace, and right action until they appear. It's the way we've looked at it is the problem. We don't get to point our finger and say all these bad things are going on out there anymore. It's how are we going to look at them? How are we going to see them as gifts? What are we going to learn from them? So we need to look at harmony, happiness, plenty, peace, prosperity, right action. Last words, until they appear. Don't quit. Don't give up until they appear. That's huge, and that's where our work comes in. This is what I know from me and almost everybody who's been my student, which is almost all of you. And when we put ourselves on a path to grow, we hear that we can have a better life. We hear that abundance is natural. We hear that health is natural. We hear that relationships can be beautiful and yada yada. We put ourselves on this path to grow, and what happens? Janet, what happens? All that crap that isn't matching that comes up for us to see it. You knew the answer. I just put you on the spot. All that stuff comes up. And sometimes it seems to get worse before it gets better. But please, 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 please don't let that scare you. It seems to get worse because it must be cleared out. So we put ourselves on this path to grow, and then we think, well, why did that fall apart? And why did I lose my job? And we get scared. It just is an evolutionary process. Our old habitual ways of thinking are so ingrained that sometimes when we put ourselves on a new path, they don't want to let go. And that hanging on doesn't let us just reframe and change our perspective. It wants to hang on. And so it appears to get worse before it gets better. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's just that we are growing and this is no longer acceptable. So it's like, get off of me. We want this old habit off of me really quick. Because we're growing. We're evolving. We're moving forward. And so if this becomes intolerable, it seems worse. Don't sweat that. It's just a natural part of the journey. So if you're in any place right now where you're looking at, gosh, how come my challenge seems to be getting bigger instead of lesser? Maybe there's just something here that's growing. Maybe I'm being called to a new perspective, and maybe all I am to do is stay on the path until the new appears. Ernest Holmes said, until it appears. What we do is we go, oh, well, this is falling apart, so it must not be working, and we give up. This is where our rubber hits the road, as they say. Okay, this seems a little bit more challenging. Am I willing to stick with this until something brand new appears? Am I willing to reframe this again? Am I willing to reframe this again? Am I willing to look for the gift in all of this? Am I willing to find the silver lining in this? Sticking with it until it appears is a big part of it, and let's not worry about it. What we're doing is we're changing our consciousness, we're changing our whole being to transform to something better. And it will. I promise you, it will. That if you keep changing your consciousness, you will transform, and you will be able then to see things differently. And some of you have already experienced some of it, and you know exactly what I mean. I personally make it a conscious intention daily to reframe stuff. The simplest little tiny things, can I reframe that? I ask myself that all day long. Those are words that work for me. Can I reframe this? Can I see what I'm looking at and call it something different? Yes, I can. It takes some conscious effort. It's like I'm choosing. I'm not putting on rose-colored glasses, believe me. There's nothing about this that's rosy-colored. It's not easy work to ask ourselves to do this. So it's not like, oh, let me just put on my nice Pollyanna glasses and see everything is wonderful. If it was that easy, we'd all have already done it already. And we would stay there already. It would be really easy already. But, you know, it takes a little bit of effort. But it's an effort, that's right. Just stick with it until we begin to see the new thing, because that's how we grow. Can I reframe this? Now let me get to the spiritual principle of why this is so darn important. Because you say, oh, who cares? Why bother? The spiritual principle that's involved here is about what we're focusing on and getting more of. Energy flows where our attention goes. You've probably heard that. Energy flows where attention goes. What we're putting our attention on, we're getting more of. It's the law of attraction. It's the way we are constituted. It's the spiritual gift that we have. We must co-create with Spirit. And so where we're putting that attention, we get more of, which is why we don't want this about 9/11. Because as a country, we're doing more, we're going to get more of it. Right? We want to do the loving side of it so we can get more of it. We're attracting to us where our attention is going. Now let me go back to the very same page of Ernest Holmes, because he also says this. Never look at that which you do not wish to experience. Easy to say. I think I'm not going to even read the rest of it. Never look at that which you do not wish to experience. Okay, so we're all laughing. I guess it's easier to say. We catch ourselves in the middle of, I'm doing it, I'm looking at what I don't want, I'm complaining and kvetching about what I don't want. Okay, all right, I'm growing, I'm on my path, I'm going to learn again. Never look at what we don't wish to experience. Okay, let me tell you out of all my understanding, out of all these years, here's how I understand this now. He's not telling us to deny our experience. And I'm going to use an experience called grief to give you this example. This is not to say, don't look at your sadness, don't look at your loss. He's not saying we shouldn't grieve. This is just one example. Our human experiences are our human experience, and grieving is something we must do when we suffer a loss. So he's not saying be in denial and don't feel those feelings. It's not that. What he's saying is when you're affirming or praying or going for your highest good, only look at that highest good. Don't look backward at the crapola that you came from. Is that a clear enough distinction? We are humans. We must feel our feelings. Don't deny them. Don't bury them. If we find ourselves getting stuck in something, then we can ask a practitioner or a minister to help us through that. That's what we're here for, to help us through that. Never look at what we don't wish to experience. It's just another way of saying let's reframe it. So if we find ourselves looking at what we don't wish to experience, can you all think of something to put in the frame? Don't put my face in the frame. I want you to experience me. I just realized I was doing that. You can put something in there that has been something you don't wish to experience. Take the frame off of it and put it on what you do want to experience. That's all we're saying. It's really that simple. Now put the new thing in here. You might have to make it up because you might not be able to see it yet. Put the new thing in here. Put the abundance, put the number in the bank account, put the diploma, put the whatever. Put the new relationship, put it in this new frame. And when you catch yourself putting it back in the old frame, just be aware, oh, okay, that's a habit. It doesn't want to let go easy, but today I'm going to reframe it. Keep the new thing in here as much as you need to until it appears. That's what he means by don't look at what you don't wish to experience. Again, we're not being in denial. And then lastly, here's something that I'm also very, very aware of, is that we as human beings are pretty much looking at life in small pieces. We are not looking at the totality. How long have human beings been on this planet? A long time. Anybody know the exact? Mary Sampson, do you know how long human beings have been on this planet?
Upright, 2.5 million.
Thank you, Yvonne. She said upright, 2.5 million. Okay, that's a long time. 2.5 million, my mind can hardly fathom that number. We are looking at 100 or less for the most part. So we look at our lives in little pieces. We don't necessarily see the picture. That, for me, puts everything in perspective. The things that I might be complaining or worried about, if I can remind myself, this is